All right, what's up,
All right.
fellas? Hope you are all having a fantastic day. We're kind of doing something a little different today with the recent changes for Deadline with the update to 0.24. We're going to be kind of talking about a lot of the additions, kind of the consensus and overview of the update. I am joined here with Mark Flavor of Mark Flavor's YouTube channel. I guess, Mark, do you want to kind of say
Hey,
a little bit
what's
of
up?
who you are?
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here.
We'll kick it off right away. We're just gonna be kind of starting off with just 2.4 as a whole. I guess I'll start off with Mark. What's your favorite additions of the patch or changes?
I think I think this could be agreed upon by like a lot of other people as well. I think the maps, the new 7 versus 7 game mode, it uh it added a new type of like dynamic to Deadline that wasn't there before, like a CQB faster pace type of thing, and a lot of people like it. I know that for sure, and a lot of people like the new maps especially. Um I think Complex is one of the good maps.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah,
I would have to completely agree. I think 7v7 changes obviously a lot of the kind of actual gameplay pace. Also, a lot of people struggle performance wise playing the, what is it, 40 player 20v20 game mode. I think it's 20v20 or it might even
right.
be
Yeah, yeah.
25v25. Anyway, kind of same shit, different day. But I think it's opening it up to a lot more players that generally don't have a PC to really run the 20v20. I see, like, even from my own Discord server, I see a lot of like screen caps of people like in the gun builders, and they're like sitting at like 60 FPS in the gun builder, so I can only imagine what their FPS is like in game.
Yeah, like one graphics. Yeah.
Right. So I think that opens up a ton. I also think that it opens up the pathway. I personally, what I think this game is going to turn into, and this is kind of the direction I hope it goes into, is there really isn't a game with this kind of like category where it's the more kind of like Tarkov approach or like gray zone warfare approach where it's kind of like
Right.
as realistic as playable, but turning that into an actual competitive setting. I think Tarkov obviously tried to do that with Arena. I think it's extremely poorly executed. It's not really a balanced
Yeah, I never looked
competitive
into
mode.
that.
It gets super convoluted. They tried to do like a spin-off of like CS:GO, but then if like either team doesn't take either of the objectives right away, then it starts spawning in a bunch of AI. It's kind of whack. It's a really kind of, it's definitely, we'll say, a new approach. We'll put it
It
that
is.
way.
But you could say that same problem is happening too. I think a lot of these maps need to be smoothed out, especially for like spawn camping, because the maps are so close together now. And considering like how this game is played, you could get a kill in like one shot with like any gun basically.
Oh yeah,
So you're
especially
sitting
seven.
outside of spawn, yeah, and
Yeah,
just
like kind of touching
cranking
on
off
that.
kills.
The scale of the maps, I think there needs to be a little bit more variety there, especially with 7v7. Like some of these spawn points are like IRL, they're probably about like, or in game, they're probably what, like 600 studs away from each other, which it's
Right.
about, if I recall correctly, one stud is equal to about a foot. Let me Google that real quick, actually.
I actually didn't know that. I don't
Stud
know.
to foot. Yeah, there's an actual, yeah, one stud is equivalent to 1 foot.
Oh shoot.
So they're probably like, if you put that in a firearms perspective, you have spawn points that are 200 yards away from each other. That's just
Right.
kind of like, unless you have actual walled off barriers like completely, and like, what's that one map? Delivery, it's kind of like the spin of shipment for 7v7 with that kind of ramp.
Right.
A great
I haven't
map,
played
but
it
also
much.
like horribly balanced. It's the
Yeah,
one
I
where it's like,
hear especially that one. That's I think people's least favorite one.
yeah,
Next to Nabolag or I don't know how you pronounce that, but like what are the tarmac map basically?
it's kind of funny. That one's one of my favorites. I think that's one of the most balanced ones.
Really?
Yeah, because you
It
kind of
in like
have, there's one spot of it where it kind of is unbalanced for one of the sides. It's like, I can't remember which who spawns where, but I think when you go on like the Sino side, so like the CT side, there's on the left side of the map, there's kind of like a long road that's kind of like a long. That's where you can kind of, if you spawn on T side, You can kind of camp that out and kind of pick people off as they're moving out of spawn. But I mean, like, this is kind of an issue that's kind of prevalent with, even if you look at 20v20, it is very easy to get up into player spawns, right? If you just learn the map flow and you honestly just go any of the like left or right side, like kind of what's the word? Like kind of paths. There's an actual like terminology for it from like CS. No, it's lanes, like from
Lanes. Yeah.
from freaking League of Legends or CS. Like, you can get into people's spawns regardless, and that's always probably going to be an issue, because if you just have skilled players that know how to, they know kind of the flow of the maps. You see this with even in my videos all the time, where I kind of like shipment, I always sit on that left side if I'm spawn, like I normally sit on that left side.
The one with the B site, or the one with the tank, that's like a site, right? Like the very side, or am I thinking of something else?
So shipment's the one, well, old shipment, the one that had like the warehouse that was like super long. You could like pretty much see the whole side of that. You know what I'm saying?
Shipment. There are two sites on shipment that are like warehouses that are really long.
Yeah, so there's that one in the center in kind of like mid, and then the other one. So the one that's kind of more on the edge of the map. So if you're spawning, I think it's, if you're spawning T side, it's the right side of the map. If you're spawning CT sides, you know, whatever the hell they call it, it's the left side of the map. I always hang out on that lane, and I can, if I'm playing either side, I can normally get up to the spawns pretty easy, and I kind of will just hang out either by, and they actually, I think they fixed this with the map rework recently. There's one where you could, yeah, there was one, if I'm spawning CT side, I could kind of move up all the way on the map and kind of hang out in one of the like little warehouses, and I'd get like literally this perfect vantage point through to like the mid part of their spawn, right where they come down that like set of stairs before that map got reworked. They took that out and they changed that.
Yeah, but I think shipment still has that problem though. Like the lanes, the 3 lanes are still really long.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, if you get a pretty balanced teams with equal skill level, I don't think really spawn camp issues are going to be an issue on that map, just because of, you know, when you get to some of these areas where a lot of the angles open up, like you're opening yourself up when you move from that to like 4 or 5 spots where there's generally people. And then if you're like a mediocre player against mediocre players, you're not going to get through that. You're just not. But
I think that's why they added the I think domination, that's why it's balanced on domination specifically. When you can't just camp to spawn and get kills, you actually have to capture all 3 sites.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree. Yeah. And I mean, that opens up an issue too, is like you see with this update, I know we're kind of like bouncing all over the place on the outline right now.
Yeah. On the talk of maps, yeah.
I would say the kind of with the, what was it called? What did I call it? The camo crisis, where people had to kind of rebuy skins, weapons, attachments for the AKs and the PP19s. What people don't realize is, I wanted to definitely touch this, is because the devs have been saying this for like 2 years. Prepare for the game to get wiped.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because progression's going to be a thing. Eventually, you're going to actually have to work and spend time. And I don't want to necessarily say grind, but grind for new guns and attachments and stuff.
It's not that grindy. I don't think Deadline is that grindy of a game at all.
If you know how to play the game and you play objectives and you hit your headshots, because you get the headshot multipliers for cash, it is very, very easy to like play an hour and get 60k. And then at that point, relatively, after you have actually purchased a gun, like let's say it's not an M4, it's not one of the defaults, you can generally build anything without camos for like 60k, right?
Right.
I would say that's kind of the high end. It obviously gets a little bit more convoluted depending on what you're trying to build, but generally that's what I would say is like the max.
You could get that with the daily missions as well.
Oh yeah, dude. It's so stupid easy to get money. Now it kind of does suck that you get landlocked sometimes to like certain guns, but if you just generally play the game for like with the missions, I should clarify, like get 20 kills with the FAL or something, it's just not worth it, right? But it gets to a point where it's like a lot of people complained about that, and we're like, oh, now I have to pay out for all these skins and blah 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 blah. And that's the thing, like, skins were never meant to be you could just buy them and run them. They were supposed to be kind of locked behind progression. So right, you get X amount of kills, whatever have you, with this attachment on your gun or whatever the hell, you unlock finally that skin, right? That's probably what it's gonna go to. I hope that's kind of what it goes to. I wouldn't even be opposed where if you buy a gun, you have to actually get kills, then to unlock attachments, and then you have to purchase those attachments. I would be totally fine with that. And that's probably where it's going to go. And kind of circling it all back, the devs have kind of said for the past 2 years, like, hey, we want progression to be a thing. Just to let you guys know, don't be surprised if, shit wipes. And, you have to rebuy stuff or whatever have you, or you have to actually go through the progression and getting things how it's intended. And I saw like a 50-50 split where some people were like, yeah, whatever, it's a game, right? Which is more than fair. It's what it should be. But then there's some of the people that are just freaking out and going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it's like, yeah, play the game for 2 hours. You'll have that gun. You'll have that build again. Trust me.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I think wait. So the system that you just mentioned right now, is it like Phantom Forces? Can you compare it to that?
sure. Kind of.
Because
I would imagine this one will probably, I hope it's a little different and a little bit more complex. So I would like to see, for optics, I would like to see it be headshots, right? But for other stuff, I could see things being totally different. Like, I don't know how you would do it. Maybe just kills for other stuff, like barrel lengths and shit like that. But I would like to see some kind of like dynamic way to progress. Like, oh, maybe I want to, like, you get a certain amount of kills that allows you to unlock a barrel type, right? And then
that's the thing about Deadline is that you know the slogan, right? Your gun or your weapon, your freedom, right?
yeah,
I think what makes Deadline is because you have that freedom to get whatever attachments you want. You don't have to grind for it. The thing about Phantom Forces, I think that, well, me personally, I disliked about it was the fact that you had to grind so much, like levels, not money, but levels.
Yeah.
In order to get whatever guns or whatever skin, no, not even skins, but whatever attachments.
Then I would say this way. Then it's like you buy the base gun with currency, and then you just grind the gun. But I would like to see optics. Like, obviously they're pretty universal. It's all pick rail attachments for the most part, unless you're running like AKs with like dovetails and stuff. I would like to see optics be more of like, hey, hit your domes. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that just adds kind of a whole nother level to it. And then you actually need to kind of like, not necessarily take your time, but like fire your rounds off with an actual intent rather than just, oh, I see a person over there, let's swap to full auto and send it. You know what I mean? It actually gives you like some kind of like, I hate using the term management, but like it makes you kind of like manage your own gameplay, and it kind of balances out that way. UI changes. Let's send it to there. Did you come across any problems with the new gun builder? I'm curious because I've gotten a lot of mixed kind of feelings from it.
Okay, so if you think logically, right, a lot of people like it because it's categorized. So then it's a lot more organized. So that means you could like scroll to whatever you need. You need an optic, you scroll to optics, right? But the problem with all of this is that, at least how I did it before, is that you used to be able to hover your cursor over all the attachments, and you could see the stats change like before you even put the attachment on, right?
Yeah.
Now you can't do that.
Yep, I did notice that. I did notice that too. I'm assuming it's just a bug right now. I would imagine that's going to be changed.
Oh yeah.
Where if like you want to change like mounts or change optics or change foregrips, you can see it specifically there. Because I noticed this, because with some of the stocks, it kind of still does that, but it doesn't actually add things correctly. So I think it's just kind of like placeholder for now. I actually don't know how I feel about it, the like categorization stuff, because I have to get used to it, because there's the whole thing where you have like kind of what you're used to and the biases towards that, especially from a design standpoint. and when things change. Like it's like the same shit when like Microsoft freaking updates like Outlook or something like that, and they change kind of the layout of stuff, and people are like, oh my god, brr. And then they get overwhelmingly negative feedback, and it just goes back to where it was, even if theoretically from a design standpoint that new update is technically less movement of your mouse, less clicks or whatever have you. People just don't like it because it's what they're used to. So
it is more clicks now though. It
Oh,
is
yeah,
more clicks
for sure.
to like go back and forth between the categories.
oh yeah,
So that is for me that is a little annoying. For you, wait, do you care about like whether you put like, I don't know, like certain like a compensator versus a muzzle brake on your gun? Because the thing is, that's why the categories it, right? So
yeah,
you know if this is a compensator, you know this is a muzzle brake. Me personally, when I'm scrolling through the attachments, I'm looking at what gives me the best stats. You know,
right.
I
And you
don't
kind
care
of
if it's
build it how you
I don't.
want.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. I
for
don't care if
me,
it's a suppressor. So like,
for
I just
me,
put whatever on.
I would generally say I am so autistic when it comes to guns and stuff, where I already generally know what they're gonna do. As far as
Mm,
attachments go, like right, you just generally have your brakes are gonna kind of kill vertical recoil, your comps are gonna kind of kill your linear
mm,
stuff. Your suppressors are gonna do a bit of both, kill your ergonomics a little bit. You know, obviously
mm,
the tonation, it's gonna change the tonation of the actual gunshot. It's gonna quote unquote silence things or suppress
mm,
things, right? But generally for me, I could do without the categories, honestly. I could just do
yeah.
without them. Um, but
An idea.
I
Yeah.
understand why they put them in, because what they could do is within those categories. I don't know if they have this already because I haven't been playing very much just because of life.
Mm,
They could add specific like descriptions to those categories that tell people what they do, and then
right.
it allows kind of those newer players to kind of understand a little bit more of what's going on, right? Like generally your muzzle
Right.
brakes are going to kill, you know, vertical muzzle climb. Your linear compensator is going to kill your horizontal stuff. Your suppressors are going to kill a little bit of your recoil, change the tonation of the gun, suppress shit, and kill your ergonomics. You know what I mean? They could
Yeah.
add kind of those kind of descriptors that help the new player base, because I think that's a big thing when it comes to games like this, is when you're getting into the world of like building guns part for part up with
It's realistic.
IRL items. Like these are all IRL items pretty much. All of
Right.
them are, except for like I would say one or two where they're just kind of memes, like the cat
Right.
and
Yeah.
shit. Um
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it people just don't know what they are. If it's somebody coming from Call of Duty and they don't have any, it's a 16-year-old kid or a 14-year-old kid. Let's say they live in a country that they can't own firearms and they just have zero exposure to it. They're gonna have no idea what the hell's going on.
I
Absolutely
see a
nothing.
lot of people putting the Walter sight on it. You know,
Oh,
the,
yep,
the
the
airsoft
MRS.
sight, man.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
some
Mm-hmm.
good old NC Star, baby.
Yep.
Yeah. So
A lot
I
of
see
people
that a
don't know
lot.
it's an airsoft.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and then you see the people who know what they're doing, and they're building like ARPs from the ghetto and stuff. That always makes me,
Mm-hmm.
that always makes me crack up. All right, so moving on. Addition of the Crink. Thoughts and opinions. The AK-74U.
It was good. I'm gonna be honest. It was good, and they nerfed it to the ground. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, I haven't played
I
it.
haven't.
I haven't played
Yeah,
it
I
since it
haven't.
was nerfed. I'm kind of scared.
Okay, well, the thing is, I haven't played it that much. All I know is that when I was using it, I was like, all right, I'm using a different gun now, you know?
Right?
So that's probably, good enough of a feel of what happened to the gun. But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know if it's like, I don't know if it's just me though. It might still be usable. I'm not too sure.
I haven't ran
But
it.
me personally, like when I first played it, when the update first came out, this gun was good on like long distances. Now it's not very that good on long distances, but for CQB purposes, I haven't really tested that yet. So
Yeah, which kind of upsets me
yeah,
because the whole issue with that is right. I would say your average engagement distance is probably like 30, 40 yards. So like what, 120
yeah,
studs, if that even.
yeah.
Um, any gun, I don't give a shit what it is going to be capable at that distance. That's the thing that's upsetting to me. So I'm a little biased on this. I have a crank in real life.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, I do. It's actually sick. And it's chambered in
nice.
5.56, so I can actually shoot it, because 5.45 is, with the import bans and stuff, is
Oh,
it's sitting at like 75 cents a round for like steel case, and I have issues with shooting steel case through my guns, just naturally. But I have it chambered in 5.56, which is going for like 40 cents a round right now for training rounds. Roughly, I think I got my last batch of 1,000 for like 380, so 38 cents a round. But side note, that gun holds a special place in my heart. So that makes me sad.
But you haven't tried it out yet.
No, I haven't tried it. I tried it after it got, I think the last time I played it was after the first time it got nerfed. And I didn't even really, to be brutally honest, I didn't even see that much of a change. So I'm assuming I know they nerfed it 2 or 3 times in there. And when I saw that they nerfed it again after I played, I was like, yeah, that's probably fair, because this thing was pretty good.
It was busted for what it was. It was busted.
Dude, it was nasty. And I was just running it with I think a PT3, so I wasn't even going for like best in slot kind of stuff. So I was running it with like a PT3, the Zenitco furniture, and just, was I even doing a weird handguard? I didn't even put I didn't even change it to a railed dust cover. I was just running the optic on kind of the top handguard rail out front. And I was like, dude, this thing's ridiculous. I think it could be a little bit lighter, because of IRL, that thing is stupid light. I think the one that I have is like 4.5 pounds, something like that, or like 4 pounds, even loaded. Which is like...
Is that related to the ammo, though?
Could be.
Because your shoot's a different thing, right?
5.56 5.56 is bigger than 5.45 as a case, I believe. 5.56 by 45 versus 5.45 by 39. So the actual bullet is, for the 5.45 variant, is actually smaller. You would see it, honestly, it's freaking negligible at that point. It's 5.45 is basically the Russian counterpart of 5.56, right? Because originally, like, if you want to get into the history of it, we used to run, like, kind of our standard rifleman was running 308, right? So the M1 Garand, or the M1 Garand, and then
something like that.
Yeah, and then Russians were running the AKM, or the AK-47, right? That came into the AK-103, and then kind of like 60s, 70s, 80s is kind of when the U.S. really was the 60s when the M16 came out. And that's when the U.S. went to 5.56. And I want to say I'm off on this for the Russian kind of counterpart of it. I want to say it was either late 60s, 70s. It could have even been early 80s, kind of like when Russia got into kind of their Syria shenanigans and their shenanigans in the Middle East, is when 5.45 kind of became more of a thing, because they saw kind of what the U.S. was doing with 5.56, because you can obviously, gunfights at that time were kind of more, instead of, getting away from kind of trench warfare and kind of more like surgical precision with your riflemen, it was kind of, hey, let's dump a shit ton of rounds in that general direction so they can't maneuver, and then we would just maneuver on them. That's essentially what war turned into in that kind of time frame. I would even say in the 40s, that's kind of when you saw that a little bit more, is just the overwhelming superior firepower, and then having the ability to move on people, right, is what won gunfights. Not necessarily the locked in, like, yes, trench warfare and stuff like that was definitely prevalent in World War II, but that was kind of one of the first major conflicts that covered the landmass that it did, and with different militaries covering the amount of space in that short of a time is any logistical feat. And really, that's one of the main reason why World War II was won from the eastern side, was because our logistics was just so much better. at the time than
Huh.
the Germans, right? We had the ability. We basically transformed our whole entire manufacturing industry throughout the whole entire U.S., and we were a much more isolationist kind of
Yeah.
country at the time, so we relied more on ourselves. And so
Yeah.
our manufacturing industry was massive. So they pretty much just were like, hey, we have all this stuff to make shit. Let's just make a fuck ton of shit and just send it over. That's pretty much exactly what happened, whereas Germany really couldn't do that, right?
Yeah.
So-
they couldn't.
Because if you put it in scale, Germany is about the size of Wisconsin. Like it's
Yeah. It
right.
is.
So
Yep.
complete side note, but
Yeah. So it's a good history lesson.
right.
But like, how does that translate to the game though? 5.56 versus 5.45. You know what I mean?
I would say 5.45 would just have a little bit less recoil. If we were firing it through like the same platform gun, you would generally see like similar terminal ballistics as far as like damage goes. I would say kind of depending on the round, it's really going to depend on the type of round individually. Like if you're running like Full Metal Jacket, AP, a sauced round, a frangible, whatever, they're going to kind of have their own caveats within them, but they're going to be just very similar rounds to begin with, just because dimensionally they are very similar, and they're made for the same purpose, really.
So gameplay wise, would the Krinkov be like the same sort of stats as the AK 545 right now?
No, so here's where I look at it. So I would say the Krink is kind of to like when it comes to your AR-15s, the Krink is going to be kind of more of like your Mark 18 platform, right? So that'd be that short barreled AR platform M4. So right, those like kind of those rifles that you see a lot of door kickers run, those 10.5
Sure.
URGIs, Mark 18s with the Gucci crowd whales and shit. The AK 545, so if you run the short barrel on it, so like your AK 105 variants, stuff like that. So cycling it back, AK 74U is going to have an 8.4, 8.5 inch barrel, right? Your AK
Right, yeah,
105
sure.
platform is going to have a 12.5, right?
Okay.
So you have Crank is going to be 8.5 inch. Your Mark 18 AR platform is going to be a 10.5 or a 10.3. I think in the game they just have 10.5s right now, off the top of my head.
Okay.
AK 74, your 105s, so your short barrel AKs, AK 545s. The naming scheme is kind of fucking wonky, but it is what it is. Your 12.5, so that's
Yeah.
going to be kind of getting into like your more general purpose stuff, versus your 14, like your regular M4 Block 2 kind of variants. Your general purpose rifles are going to be hovering in that 12.5 to 14.5, maybe even 16-inch rifle IRL.
Okay.
And then kind of everything above that is kind of your special purpose rifle. AKs, it's a little bit different just because AKs are inherently less accurate, right? So
Yeah, they are.
because of their piston driven system, the design, they're very simple. The barrels aren't free floated, so your handguard actually interfaces to your barrel, which screws up the harmonics of your barrel. So barrels, when you actually shoot IRL, they have like this almost like whipping motion. Super exaggerated, but it's like kind of like a whipping motion. And if you can create that where it's not inhibited, and you have the actual where that barrel locks into the receiver, the actual body of the gun, and that's super stable, you can get a very accurate weapon system, right? Like your run-of-the-mill AR-15 right now, brand new, should be like printed 1H groups at 100 yards, 1 MOA, roughly 1 or 2 MOA. The standard for the U.S. military, they retire guns and service weapons, specifically M4 platforms, when they hit 4 MOA. So when the barrel gets degraded or the receiver has had so many rounds through it where it's the locking mechanism, which is pretty much just like a screwed on kind of like barrel holder in layman's terms, or if that like kind of locking mechanism gets degraded enough, or the actual receiver is degraded enough. Generally you just see the barrels go. Like you can put hundreds of thousands of rounds through receivers and they'll be fine. It's generally the barrels, the rifling in them actually gets damaged over time, obviously, because you got the pressures in there, the lead case, the actual bullet itself, integrating with that barrel, expanding where it's actually hitting that barrel and sits in the rifling as it's going through. And obviously that
Speaking of
causes wear.
yeah, Well, speaking of the ballistics of the guns, like, do you know why they needed a revamp? Like, I know you shot these guns in real life, probably, right? Do
Yeah.
do you feel that the AKs were like accurate before,
Yeah, they're
or
fine.
not
I
really?
think they're in a decent spot. Honestly, I thought in the past, so kind of before like 23 or 24, the AKs didn't have as much attachments to make them really viable. Or to make them, I shouldn't say
Okay.
viable, I should say relevant to the AR platforms, to the M4, or the HK 416. Well, that's what they needed. They just needed a ton of attachments. Yes, they did need some stat buffs when it came to like, I wouldn't necessarily say recoil, but weight. Um, a lot of
Oh,
people think
okay.
AKs are just stupid heavy IRL, and I would say yes for the most part. Like your 16-inch ones are going to be heavy, but your 16-inch ARs aren't also light, right? Um,
Yeah.
Especially when you're decking them out with, running running a laser aiming module, running a light, running a can on the end of it. Like, yeah, it's going to be fucking heavy. Um, eh, it's kind of more of like a to each their own. Like, personally, the way I look at it, IRL is, I shoot both. I own both. They're
Okay.
both very good fighting platforms. AKs are super simple. ARs are obviously a little bit more advanced. They're newer. Your ARs are just generally lighter. Your AKs are generally heavier for like kind of similar platforms. I wouldn't
Okay.
necessarily say that one is more punchier recoil wise than the other. It kind of more depends on how that rifle was built and how it was set up and its purposes, right? Because you can make
Yeah.
anything super flat and shooting super soft if you just don't feed the weapon system as much gas and you don't have much gas coming back into the weapon, whether that's a piston driven gun or a direct impingement. And for the people that don't understand what that is, the AK, whenever a bullet goes through the chamber, gets fired, goes through the barrel, there's a gas port that lets gas back into the weapon system. That hits a piston that is kind of where you're kind of underneath that handguard, that upper handguard, that gas tube. You'll see it when you're setting up guns. That hits an
Mm.
actual piston head that is a part of the whole bolt assembly that cycles that bolt back. There's a spring behind that bolt in the upper, and that gets pushed back, and then it sends forward, picking up another round. ARs are different because they use what's called direct impingement. You have that bullet go through the barrel. That gas port is still there. That gas then goes all the way back through a gas tube and gets fed back into the upper receiver. And that hits the bolt, sending the bolt back. Kind of same shit, different day. Just basically
Mhm.
two operating mechanisms that are different. If you look at the SIG MCX, for example, everybody knows what that is. That is actually more of a system that is comparable to an AK than it actually is an AR.
Oh,
Yeah, not a lot of
I don't
people.
know what that is, but
So, I'm gonna bring it up on my screen just so people can
alright.
see it. If you were to look at this, you would think it's an AR-15. So I'll actually just, I'll share my screen. Why not?
The SIG MCX.
Yeah, just
Oh
Google
yeah,
it real
I'm
quick.
looking at it. Yeah,
So
I'm looking
that
at it. Yep.
looks, you would think that's an AR-15 platform looking at it just based off how it's
Mhm.
set up, but the internals of it are, I would argue, are more comparable to an AK. It's called an AR-18, but it kind of more uses more of that, hey, there's a piston in here, and that whole recoil assembly is actually housed in the internals of the weapon versus in an AR-15, it's in that buffer tube, right? Because that
Mhm.
bolt actually goes all the way back through that buffer tube. That's why ARs really can't have folding stocks and still operate with folding stocks. Yeah, you can throw like law folders and shit on it, but you're gonna only get one round, and that gun's not gonna cycle. The more you
So
know.
yeah. So is that something that they implemented with the new the revamps of the AKs? Like, have you played them?
So the AKs have always had that. So
Oh, okay.
just because that's how AKs work, right? So I guess kind of the easiest way for me to explain it is if you kind of literally search on YouTube how an AK-47 works, it's
Okay.
actually the first video that comes up. Or if
Okay.
you just Google AK internals, you can kind of see where that spring assembly is and that it's housed in the upper receiver. So that upper receiver is going to be that spot kind of so where your mag inserts, that's your lower receiver, kind of that piece of metal, and that
Okay, I
has
see
like
it,
your
I see it.
trigger in it. You can see where that spring is on kind of that like long rod, and then the bolts in front of that. And that's where that
Okay.
whole recoil assembly is. It's actually like housed inside the receivers of the weapon versus an AR-15. That buffer spring kind of assembly is all the way back like towards where the stock is. It's in that tube that holds the
Oh,
stock.
wow.
Yeah, so
I
the
didn't know
bolt
that.
is all the way back there. What is kind of nice about that is you don't have as much mass reciprocating back and forth because AKs on the bolt, that piston is part of the bolt. So like when you pull out a bolt of an AK, it has this huge piston head on it. And that's all recoiling mass. So I would say like generally the felt recoil with AKs is higher. It doesn't always translate that way because guns are weird and people these weapon systems have been around for like 60 or 80 years depending on which. There's been a lot of development time into them. People have found a way at this point to really perfect them and run them super well and still have reliability, because you can make any gun, kind of what I was saying way before, like 5 minutes before, is you can make any gun really run super flat and not have recoil. But if you get when you cut gas off to the easiest way to do that is to just run less gas into the system, right? You just make that gas port smaller or make it adjustable. But when you're letting less gas in, it's not as reliable. Anything gets hung up on that bolt, the gun gets dirty and it can't get through that gunk. It's gonna jam up on you, right?
Yeah.
So that's in a nutshell how that works. So that's why I kind of saying like, oh yeah, AKs should have more recoil, blah 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 blah, whatever have you, is kind of a bullshit point in my opinion, because you can really make them run however you want them. You can just build them a certain way, have a certain gas port sizing, use low mass bolt carriers or different designs when it comes to bolts, and right, it's gonna run how you want it to. Yes, it might not be as reliable, but in a video game, how do you really balance reliability? Right. Like Tarkov tried to do it, everybody fucking hates it, not gonna lie.
It's too realistic. It's too complicated. It's too complicated.
I shouldn't say that. It's more along. I could see it being a feature if you have like LMGs and stuff, so you can't just sit there, bipod it out, and just blah. But that's I think the better way to do that is have an overheating mechanic, where if you have a certain amount of a string of fire, you can't really fire anymore. But then it gets weird there, because if let's say you're running like let's say we got an M249 that's suppressed. If you were to run that thing super hot, that fucking suppressor is going to blow up, right? It's going to get so hot, and it's basically a hot pocket of air that's sitting inside of a metal tube that's expanding. It's going to blow up eventually, or just melt, or your barrel's going to go. Your barrel's just going to fucking melt. Like,
yeah.
But
I don't think they're going to be adding
No,
LMGs.
they're not going to. They're not.
No.
I could see them adding it. I could. Well, they technically already, they theoretically, like, you can run D60s or mag or the Surefire 60 mags, and they have the Surefire 100 rounders. So you can you can build SCARs, you can build HKs, you can build M4s that are kind of more of an LMG platform. The only thing they just haven't added yet are bipods, right? If bipods are added, that's going to be really scary, because I think we're going to see a lot of people just holding down angles, right? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because that is the point of an LMG. It's to deny area from people, right? So you just sit there holding an angle, and whenever somebody pokes their head out, you just blast them with fucking 50 rounds. That's the point of an LMG. But in a game like this, I think really the only way you actually balance that is you add an overheating mechanic. But then if you argue that you want to make it as realistic as playable, then you're looking at after you send 400, 500, 600, 800, 1,000 rounds down range before you start having problems.
Everyone's just going to be running the bipods. Everyone's going to be doing that.
Oh, yeah,
it's just
dude.
Gonna be
it's going to be... Yeah. I mean, here's my thought process on it, right?
Okay.
If it gets to a point where bipods are added, I could also see mounting. So if you ADS close to a barrier, you can mount, your handguard or your barrel or whatever the hell weapon platform you're running to that specific whatever you're mounting it on, right? And I could see that, you know, like decreasing your recoil by 50%, because that's what you do IRL when you shoot. If you're after you're moving a bunch, you're fatigued a shit ton, you literally have to do that. You cannot get stable enough
In
freehand.
this game, you have the arm stamina that kind of balances out like the whole hard scoping problem. You know, you can't
Yes
just
and
hard scope
no.
an angle anymore.
Yes
right?
and no. So arm stamina got buffed. We'll touch on this right away.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
They also added it where if you take rounds and you get hit, you don't lose any anymore, which I'm fine with that. I'm actually really fine with the arm stamina rework. I thought it was kind of really crazy beforehand. Like when they first added it, it was more of a problem than a solution.
Yeah.
Because like every single round you fired, you also lost stamina, and it was at a really crazy high point or rate where like you shot off 5 rounds with like a 10.5-inch AR, and you're
Right.
just your arms have turned into spaghetti noodles. Which is
With a sniper, it's even worse. It's like 1 round and you're done. You know, you can't
Really?
scope in anymore.
yeah, I personally think kind of bolt actions are irrelevant, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh yeah, got revamped.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't played them in a while, but I just kind of think they're irrelevant that semi-auto battle rifles exist. There's really
Right.
the only pro that you get with the snipers, really, I would say, is the increased bullet velocity, but your engagement distances aren't far enough to really have that be a freaking factor, in my opinion.
It's like a very like it only applies to Nuristan basically. If you're
Yep.
trying to snipe from like White House to like across the
Yep.
map, then that's the only time bullet velocity really matters.
Yep, and it's still really doable with like a FAL. We're gonna be completely
yeah.
honest. Like it's so negligible where it doesn't really matter, and I don't want to see snipers get to the point of where they're just like hit scan, pretty much, where the bullet velocity is so fast where it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's basically hitting damn near instantaneously.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Because then that'll just make them absolutely broken, and then you can just run like a super crazy ergo to R700 and just destroy everything. Right?
I think they increased the ergo.
Yeah, they
I
did.
think as well.
They
Yeah.
did. I haven't ran them, so I haven't really touched on them so much. So that is something we can definitely talk about a little bit later. We did touch on the revamp of the AKs. I'm just going to go through that right away. Revamp of the UMP. I haven't ran it.
I didn't buy. I bought all the other guns and I ran out of money and I didn't buy the UMP. So
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Maybe
But-
shoot a message to Scrub, see if you can get content creator. Just you get unlimited money basically.
Nice.
Yeah, they added to me one day, and I was like, "What?" So this is how it works.
That's broken.
No matter what you do, if you leave and rejoin the game, you get 9,999,000 blah 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 blah. Right? I had like 10.5 mil. And I joined the game,
That's fun.
and it actually like took, right, like half a mil away from
Yeah.
me, and I was sitting there like, "What the fuck?" And I couldn't figure it out, and I was like, "How did they implement this shit?" And then I thought the route they would have gone is just everything's unlocked. But no,
Yeah,
so I
but
got like super confused. It's pretty funny.
I don't want to be rich like that. You know, I still want to play the game, grind out my
Yeah,
stuff.
I know.
So,
I'll probably make an alt when the game wipes and plan the alt and
Oh
just
yeah.
right, because there's no point after I play the game for like 10 days. I have enough money for basically everything that I run, so it's
Yeah.
kind of irrelevant. We talked about the R700. They just pretty much added ergo to touch on it again. There's not really much to
much.
talk about there. We kind of talked about
You can make
balancing.
an op now. You can make an op.
Yeah,
now.
I actually did like that. That was pretty sick because
That was really
Accuracy
cool.
International, that chassis is a vibe. Brings me back to my Black Ops 1 days when we were running the L96.
CS:GO.
Yep. They revamped the Mark 9, so that guy's the AR9, so it's AR-15 Shepard 9. A little bit of a
Right.
different operating
use it?
mechanism there. I used to. I haven't touched it yet. I really haven't touched LM or SMGs. We gotta eventually talk about the recoil changes because that's kind of
Oh,
huge. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Wait,
here.
was that applied to the SMGs or was it only
No,
the rifles?
it was
'Cause-
not. It was only
Yeah,
rifles,
it was only
battle
rifles.
rifles. So I have the notes here. We'll touch on it in a minute.
Okay.
I like the way I look at AR9s and stuff and SMGs. I don't really see a massive point to them unless they get recoil buffs. Um,
Uh, yeah, to be honest, like you said, like the engagement distance of the maps, I feel like they're too small for like the snipers and stuff like that, but they're also too large to run like SMGs all the time, especially since you're just gonna get wiped by someone with like with an M4, the stock weapon.
yep.
You know, someone with a you're gonna get wiped by that guy if you're trying to run around with like a MK9.
Right.
Um, that's why I'm thinking, you know, smoke grenades, all right, block off lines of sight. I'm just saying, you know, I'm a pro smokes guy,
Yeah,
to be
I think
honest.
smokes would be huge. The only thing I'm worried about with them is kind of performance issues.
Oh yeah, that is something that, you know, that's like a developer problem. But in terms
Yeah.
of like, you know, the feature, like smokes, we need smokes. You
Yeah,
know?
and if they implement it the right way, so like I think they need to make smokes kind of be more CS:GO like, because IRL, a lot of people don't know this. Smoke nades, you have to wait for like 2 or 3 minutes for the smoke to plume. It's not just like poof
Oh,
and it's there,
I
right?
didn't
So
know
they
that.
need to implement them more like CS, I think, and have them, because of the fast-paced nature of the game, and to actually make them
Right.
work. They need to have them like maybe have like a 10-second delay or something like that, but something obviously super exaggerated, or just have them plume instantly like CS:GO or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's kind of more the route that needs to be taken just for gameplay purposes. I think in that kind of leave the realism to the wayside, or make them just keep a little bit of the realism and just make them plume super fast. But I think the
I mean,
easiest way for them to do it and implementing it without having a performance hit is to just have them plume immediately, um, rather than have them being
oh,
gradual and having a ton of what the hell would the word be? Um, a ton of
particles.
particles. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that would probably be the way to go.
Yeah, I didn't really consider that because I always thought that if you were to have it like gradually come out, because I kind of agree with you with the CS:GO thing. Like it's convenient, but it's not really like realistic. You don't have just smoke spawn out of nowhere, you
Right.
know? It like
Poof.
gradually starts small, right? Gradually starts small and then it like comes out. And I think that's how it is in R6. I forgot. I haven't
Oh,
played that game in a long time.
I've never played R6, and I do not plan on
Uh
getting into that community, bro.
oh yeah, but if they implement the smokes really well, it could actually be done really nicely. You
Yeah,
know.
no, I agree. And that kind of leads to, well, I guess we'll leave that for later because that's kind of more wish list stuff. Um, big thing
Mhm.
for me, they added the Holliston 510C. Do you know what that guy is? It's an optic.
So I didn't before, but then reading these notes, I went into the game and then I checked it out, and I was like, dude, this is a step up from that Walther site, you know,
MRS.
the airsoft site, right?
Yeah.
And it's like a little, it's also a step up from the Hollow site because I feel like the Hollow site is or I mean,
The
the
EOTech.
EOTech,
Yeah.
right, the EOTech, that one has, in my opinion, the best like visibility.
Yep.
Um,
I would say
and the
that
Walter obviously, but it's an
the
airsoft,
and then the other holographic, which is Vortex's version, so the UH1, the Huey.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
so my thought process when it comes to optics is you want to have a reticle that is very simple,
Hmm.
but if you can get more information out of that reticle, it's a lot more convenient, right? So you have your
Right.
holdovers in there and whatnot. Now, I'm not sure if you know this. I'm not sure if this is just my game, but when I had, because I'm playing at a custom FOV and shit, and that can get kind of whack. My bullet
Yeah.
impacts never actually impact where the actual reticle is on my screen.
Oh,
So it's
really?
always low. Um,
Oh, wow.
so, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is it for everybody and people just don't realize it because penetration, how the way penetration works in the game. Um, it could also be because I run risers a lot on ARs and stuff, but getting more information out of that reticle is great for me. EOTech, I specifically normally run the 4-dot EOTech normally.
Okay.
Because it has those holdovers, and I can generally be like, okay, I need to aim this high when this person's this far away, so I can
The
hit
thing
him in the
about the
dome.
EOTechs are they're so blocky, you know.
Yeah,
They're blocky. Yeah.
yeah. But so where you get an advantage over like an EOTech or any sort of holographic or any sort of circle dot reticle is that information translates over recoil easier. You have a lot more information to track through recoil, right? You don't just have that dot. It just makes it easier on the end user, whoever is using it. And you see that IRL too quite a bit.
Yeah.
And
That's why I like this new dot better. Or this new red dot.
The 510 is such a great addition. It's like it's probably it's the meta, I would say, it's gonna be the meta for a lot of people.
And that's if people start figuring out that the Walter site is an airsoft site. Because the thing about that site is that it's used like everywhere. Call of Duty, everywhere.
God,
like you
they
find
need
it
to just
everywhere.
take it out of the game.
Just take it out. I made that mistake my first time playing this game too. I was like, oh, this is the site that I saw from Call of Duty. That's sick, man. And then I realized that it like the accuracy is like not good, and it's like, bro.
Yeah, and if you touch those things IRL and you bounce them off anything, they just explode.
Oh shoot, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because like look at the housing, dude. It's all glass, and you just have this like literal piece, just tiny piece of metal. It's not like an EOTech where you've got like actual like a metal shroud over a metal shroud and then the glass, right? So
yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that. That's fine. It's a video game. That's cool. Yeah. But in my opinion, take it out of the freaking game, man. It doesn't belong.
Yeah.
Moving on. We got the Glock Radiant Afterburner and Remjet. So you probably don't know this.
I don't.
It is probably one of the, for Glock specifically, it is probably one of the most welcomed attachments in the firearms community in real life.
Okay.
For that weapon platform, really. Basically,
so what is it though?
So it's an aftermarket barrel and then a comp that goes on the end of it. So you just Google a picture of it, you'll understand right away what it is.
Oh, that's what that was. I went into the game and I was looking at my Glock. I was like, what is this afterburner thing? And I saw like the compensators a little bit different. I was like, oh shoot. So this is kind of cool.
Lightweight, which is super great. It doesn't do as much as the other comps, but I think it's a pretty dope addition. And that they took the time to add it. I run one on a Glock 19, or I have one on a Glock 19, and it is generally with comps IRL you run into a lot of reliability issues with handguns because of how handguns work. They're direct blowback, so they actually use part of the explosion to actually reciprocate the slide and cycle another round. So when you add a bunch of weight on the end of the barrel, that causes a lot of fucking problems just naturally. So then it becomes very picky with ammo selection, all this other shit. You need to change recoil springs out, make them lighter. That generally messes with the reliability of the actual firearm. There's a lot of problems that can happen. You're kind of tracking, right? This is like one of the first comps that's like lightweight and actually does anything. And actually like you see a performance increase and it doesn't fuck with the reliability of your gun. So that was just like super cool to see, and it like made me all warm and fuzzy inside.
Oh, you're talking about in real life, like
when they added it to the game, I was like, oh, sick, hell yeah, dude. I haven't looked at the stats on it or anything like that.
I was about to ask that. I was gonna ask like, have you felt a difference in game?
I know stats wise, it's not as great as some of the other comps that are there. I'm fine with that. It's a lot lighter weight, and actually, if you really think about it, it's not going to do as much as your more traditional comps that are heavier, because you have a ton of weight then off the front where this thing's super lightweight. All right, it's kind of countering the actual action of the gun with the weight. So, but that's besides the point. I should say this is probably one of the most efficient when it comes to the actual weight of it and how much it actually does for compensating recoil impulses with handguns. Dude, it's money. Moving on.
TLDR, it's a W. W for the Glock community.
All right, I don't think really that many people. A couple people, I have seen quite a few Glocks or killed by a few Glocks while I was playing a couple days ago, so that is there.
Oh, shoot.
PM pistol, nobody uses it. They gave it a lot of love. Like a ton of attachments came to it. I think like what they had like 7 to 12 or something like that, where they actually made. But they added a bunch of PM attachments, Makarov, whatever the hell you want to call it.
I thought there were already a bunch. Sorry for interrupting, but I thought there were already a lot of attachments added to it.
Oh, I
and
would
then
have no idea.
They took them away. They took them away, and then they added them back.
Oh, did they just redo them? They probably did. They probably just redid the actual model for the Makarov or the PM. and
Yeah,
then
because I
re-added the
remember, I
attachments.
remember, I remember back in the day, I was getting killed by like drum mag PMs, you know, and I was like,
Oh,
dude, what's
well,
happening? Yeah.
they've always had the drum mags, I'm pretty sure, for a long
Hmm.
time. But
And they disappeared.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't really care because I think like if you're gonna run a pistol in this game, you're running the you're gonna be running the Glock,
Anything
right?
but the macro.
Anything but the Makarov, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is gonna be hilarious. We're gonna touch on the 320. That's gonna be awesome later,
Okay.
but we're gonna talk about
Mhm.
that. Next, we got knives in the melee system. Have you even used it yet?
Yes, it is fun to say the least. It is
Really?
because okay, the thing is not like the knife itself; it's the movement that you get by running just a knife, right? Because
Oh, I
you
guess.
you run the speed of lightning, and then in this game, like it's not one of those games where like you're tracking too much, you know?
Mhm.
Everyone's usually moving real slow. So when you're like dodging back and forth, and then all of a sudden you're in someone's face, you know how the gun like kind of like goes down because it's like the barrel's like too long or something.
Yeah.
You're like right in their face. They can't do anything. You just knife them right then and there.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
then they said they added the ability. I haven't even tested this stuff out yet, but they added the
Mhm.
ability for you to like, I guess, like melee with your gun.
Yes, you can. I think that one you need to hit him twice. You need to hit him twice. That's a
Oh, does it
two-shot
like?
kill.
Do you know if it like stuns them?
I don't know
That
actually.
would
I
be
haven't done.
freaking. That would be money, dude. You just smack
Yeah,
somebody that gets stunned. You just pump 5 rounds. Oh, that'd be
I don't
that'd
think
be
so though.
peak gameplay, dude.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it just does damage, but I like it's there if you need it. You know, if you run out of ammo, it's there if you need it. But practically, I don't think anyone's really using it. I mean, I never
Yeah, I
used it
think if
personally,
people are
so
meleeing, they're using knives. Honestly.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would imagine. I really haven't touched them too much. I tried touching them, but they were all bugged out, and they had to put a fix in the next day for them on the
Oh
initial day of
shoot.
release. A bunch of the skins were making them unusable and whatnot, but
Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
just wanted to run like a gold knife, man. You know what I mean? So I was like
Dude,
super bougie. I was like, I got 9 million right now, so let's just buy this
you got it? Or
200K
no?
skin or whatever. Yeah, no, I was trying to run it, but the way the skins were like going onto the guns, it was saying that they weren't compatible. You know how you have that with like weapon
Oh,
attachments? It was doing the same
yeah.
shit. So I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm not even gonna touch them.
I didn't even experience that, but yeah, I see.
Right.
Yeah.
Next we got addition of voice chat.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh boy. Oh
Oh
boy.
boy.
Oh
Oh
boy.
no. Here comes the music spammers. Here comes the oh man. But
So the
yeah.
problem with it right now, if you set the voice chat to 0%, the voice chat still comes through.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So
I did not know
imagine
that.
poor old me trying to record and you got some 5-year-old kid realizing I'm
Oh
in
yeah.
lobby, following me around.
It's a pulley, it's a pulley.
Yep. So y- great. I think it's actually a pretty cool addition. I don't think it's needed in like the public lobbies like the 7v7 or the
No.
20v20. You know,
It's
yes,
funny,
for
but that's
competitive,
about it.
it can be hilarious, but it can also be like super annoying, especially
Mhm.
that there's the whole radio function. I think it's super dope that enemies on the other team can hear it when you're
Yep.
talking. That is awesome because I was hoping they were going to implement it that way. A, because you can talk shit, and B,
Right.
competitive, man. That adds a whole, like, if a competitive like search and destroy, like let's say they have ranked competitive eventually,
They might have
that
that.
adds a whole nother dynamic to the gameplay that no other competitive game has ever done. That is
Really?
fucking sick in my opinion, right? Because if you're sitting there and you're in a position where you know somebody's there and you know the enemy doesn't know you are there, you're not gonna sit there and spam your radio IRL, right? And going like, oh, there's a guy on me, blah 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 blah. You're gonna sit there and you're gonna wait that out, right?
Ah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
and you know, like you look at it this way too,
Mm-hmm.
in a competitive sense, IRL, like realistic is playable here, keeping it on that
Mm-hmm.
notion. You die in the game, let's say your competitive's out, you're playing 5v5 search and destroy that's ranked. You die, you can't give information to your teammates.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's the thing about this game though is that I don't know if it's gonna go that like hardcore competitive route in that
Oh, dude,
sense.
it's the thing that'll save the game, in my opinion.
You think so? I feel like
We'll
people are just
touch
gonna
on
be
that
on
later.
Discord.
We'll touch on
Okay,
that
okay.
later. I have it
Gotcha.
all set out there.
right.
Next we got kind of recall changes. So we're gonna actually delve into this now. I'm just gonna say kind of exactly everything that they did. Added a progressive recoil system. Should make shooting in semi-automatic and short bursts easier. For each shot when you're in full auto, recoil increases by around roughly 6% per shot. Recoil increase caps at 160% of the base recoil of that gun you are using. That obviously varies per gun. This does not affect recoil in semi-automatic. It does not affect SMGs, pistols, or bolt actions. In addition to that, base recoil was reduced by roughly 15% for all rifles. This was to obviously compensate for progressive recoil. They reduced pistol recoil, and they changed how the recoil animation works for AR-15s M4s to make them less jittery.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I never really had a issue with it before. Kind of my workaround was I play on 90-degree FOV. I also obviously play at a 21:9 monitor. If you increase that FOV higher like that, I think kind of 90 degrees is kind of where you should kind of be playing at for first-person shooters. It kind of is like the most natural. You don't get a shit ton of distortion if like you're playing on like 105 degrees or 100 degrees. It's kind of the most natural. I think the standard FOV is like 70 degrees?
Like
60 degrees?
70.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I don't know. I play around 80 to, like 80. I play 80.
Switch it to 90. Switch it to
Really?
90. It'll change your life. You have to get used to it. It'll be definitely an adjustment for you. But you can see much more. You don't have as much visual recoil on your screen because the camera doesn't shake as much as well.
Wouldn't that mean that like the things in front of you are going to be farther away though?
Yeah.
Because that's my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you get around that? I run 1Xs. I do fine with them. Like I run EOTech, so I would probably say are my main reticle of choice. You can get around that with like 3-buys, right? Or ACOGs.
Okay.
That solves that issue completely for people that have that problem. It also is obviously going to depend on your actual setup, right? I'm running an ultra wide. That's a pretty large screen. It's 1440p. I can see far just fine. Other people that are playing on 24-inch monitors or laptop screens that's not going to be a good time.
Yeah, good luck.
Not going to be a
Good
good
luck.
time. And I'm actually even thinking about getting an even bigger monitor than the one that I have.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Man. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You're gonna see the whole map 360, bro.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to change the form factor of it. I still like that ultra wide aspect. I'm not going to get like a 32:9. That's just too much. Plus, like recording on that would be kind of like AIDS.
Yeah. It would. Yep. How to say it.
Yep. I'm going to keep it at 21:9. I think that's like, honestly, I think that's where, kind of side note, I think that's where PC standards should go, is having that extra screen real estate. It just makes life, when it comes to just using your computer and productivity, a million times better. Because it like actually makes running 2 windows on one screen like actually usable, and you can actually see the whole entire, like if you're doing shit online, you can actually see whatever it is that you're doing, the whole entire web page, without having to scroll left and right and all that bullshit. So
Oh, that's good.
yeah, makes it way more better.
Expensive though, no?
No, you can get like a Samsung G5 for like $300-400. Like it's really not that bad, and they have 165 hertz, 165 hertz or refresh rate. And they're 1440p, so it's like everything that you could want, really. Unless you're like an OLED gamer and you really like OLED panels, and you can't do without an OLED panel, which then you'd have to go for like an LG or something like that, where then you're talking at 800 to $1,000, right?
Yep.
It's actually really not that bad for what you're getting though. But yeah, moving on.
Yeah.
State of rifles, battle rifles, SMGs, pistols, bolt guns. Man, this is a weird one.
I don't use any of these really that much, other than like my good old like MK16. I'll be honest.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You're a SCAR user, so I would say
it's got good ergo.
It does, dude. Honestly, the SCAR Lite, so the Mark 16, Scar L, whatever the hell you want to call it, was probably for a very long time the best gun in the game. For a very long time. Especially when we're looking at like 0.19, 0.2 days. Like, that gun was like the recoil, the ergo, it was just nutty. It was just
I wasn't
so good.
around for that time, so yeah.
I got you. So it used
But
to be
right now
even-
it's still good.
yeah, it used to be even better, bro.
Damn.
Yeah. So that thing used to like not move. I think I have actually. I might have on the channel from like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. A Scar gameplay. Watch it. You'll be
I think I've seen it, yeah.
You'll be like, holy shit, this thing doesn't move.
Yeah.
The only thing
Well,
is,
now it kind of does though, but yeah.
Scars are, if you deck them out, they're heavy. They're heavy as balls. It doesn't matter if it's it doesn't matter if it's a 5.56 or a 7.62. But kind of like getting to the balance of it. I think battle rifles are still stupid OP. 3 weights.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Um,
especially with like the recoil, like rework, like they're good now. Like still good.
They always have been. If you have a gun that you can just touch somebody with and they die, and what I mean by that is if
Really?
you hit them in the thorax, they're donezo.
I thought they got nerfed.
They might have. I haven't actually played it. I don't know if this is still relevant since kind of a lot of the buffs have happened.
Right.
But if you can make these battle rifles and have them like have 16 or 18-inch barrels and then one tap to the thorax or hit an arm, thorax, and they're dead, bro, we got problems, man. Like,
yeah, we do.
If they want to make this game still be like competitive where you can kind of run anything and still be relevant, what the hell would the point be running an M4, running an SMG, if you can just sit
Exactly.
there and have like a decently high ergonomic battle rifle and just one tap people to the
Shred.
chest? Yeah, just shred. Like, it's disgusting. I like
'Cause
the
I hear
Scar-
talks of people. Oh yeah, what?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, because I heard talks of people doing like the search and destroy type of game mode being more like CS:GO, and I'm thinking like, if everyone can run a battle rifle for free, why
Why?
do that? You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Why? Especially if like, you know, you have your defending team who's going to be more campy. Really, they're the only way you're going to be able to counter something like that, it's basically a semi-auto op at that point, is utility. So as soon as you run out of fucking smoke grenades or any sort of nades or any utility, you're just screwed because you have to push, right? If you're on the attacking side. So it's going to be a weird one to balance, man. It's going to be really weird.
Yeah. And if they do add the search and destroy thing, and they do make it so that you can't, like, you have to buy weapons like CS:GO. At that point, you're not even playing Deadline.
I'm not
anymore,
even
you know?
say like. Here's what they'll probably do if they get into any sort of. Well, I don't want to. Fuck it. We'll talk about it now because this is like something I have been dying for the game.
Go ahead.
Is it's on kind of more or less my wish list, right? It's some sort of ranked competitive mode. Now, I think the really only way you do that is literally like ranked like CS. However,
Yep.
you make it operate this way, so you can go in with whatever build you want, right? But you have to lock in with that specific build, right? Or that loadout or whatever.
Okay.
The initial one that obviously you queue into game, either you queue in with buddies or you get placed on a fucking random team, how CS works. You vote out maps, right? Initially.
Okay.
So like let's say there's 15 maps in the game. You vote out all these maps, there's only 3 left and the last 3 are RNG. It's just a random number generator selects a random map. Out of those last 3 or 5 or however the devs want to do it, it's obviously going to depend also on how many maps are in the game at that point.
Right.
Then you just play your rounds, right? And then obviously determined on how that's going to be is this is going to get even crazier when the devs have alluded to actual armor customization and stuff like that. So what you need to do in that instance, right, is you need to make it be pretty obvious if somebody's wearing light armor, pretty obvious visually if somebody is using also heavy armor, right? You need to be able to. No, it's not. Actually, it's really not. So.
Oh, really?
How you would do that, right? It's kind of like Tarkov. You can tell when people are juiced up. Them boys be thick, right?
I've never played.
Oh,
so yeah.
unfortunate.
Let me know.
If you have dudes rocking these huge ass IOTV vests with shoulder armor, you know, leg protection, the the what the fuck are they called? Like the groin armor and stuff, those armor flaps and stuff. You're gonna be able to see that from a mile away, right?
But in Roblox?
Oh yeah, dude, you could easily do it. I think you can.
Oh,
I think you can.
interesting.
I think you'd be able to, because right, that armor is gonna be a different color. You can make it so that it's desert tan, or some of these heavy armors have these specific colors, right? So you're gonna have to make it work that way. You could literally add freaking face armor, head armor. Obviously, they're gonna have to make it so that it's like you can't have dudes sitting there eating rifle rounds.
Yeah, that's right.
That'd be kind of ridiculous. They'd have to balance it, and I really think that headshots should be like your Dunzo.
At that
With
point,
low
I don't
chance.
even feel like it's. I don't even feel like it's Deadline anymore.
Oh well, that's the direction it's gonna go, man. Like eventually, like when gunplay gets ironed out, that's the next thing. Is gonna be like really customizing your loadout, and that's probably gonna be like, hey, I can put this plate carrier on. I can put these plates in it. I can put these mag pouches on here, and each one is actually going to correspond to how many mags I have in my loadout. But also, the way you balance that is with weight, right?
That's right.
So if you have a huge tanky dude running around in competitive who can't move that well, there you go.
Yeah.
How you counter how you counter that is with smokes, with utility.
Okay,
and that guy can't move. So once you identify where that guy is, that dude is pretty much now at the disadvantage, right? You just all you need is a well-placed smoked and maybe a couple frags, and he's done.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Dude, it's gonna be super interesting, man. But I think when it comes to that kind of ranked competitive mode, right? That adds when a player gets into a game, right? And then they start playing this game that's right now, I would say it's still relatively casual, right? With how the game modes are set up, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can hop into a game. There's no kind of like sense of competitiveness, right? You can, if you're a decent player, you can go in and steamroll lobbies with relative ease, right? If you kind of know what you're doing, you've been around for the game for a little bit, you can, if you find your spots and you know how you play, you can find spots on the map and hang out on those spots of the map and do relatively well.
I feel like that's a little like, isn't that because now you have to do like the whole matchmaking thing, you know? So now you have to wait for people to get into a lobby, and for a game like Deadline, it's like
I think that'll be fine because I think a lot of people would play together when they're at that point.
In competitive?
Oh yeah,
because I feel like a lot of people play this game for the the arcade like.
Yeah, yes and no. So, right, the nature of the game is it's obviously a little bit more hardcore, right? You have the whole customization aspect. Now you can actually take your customization aspect when you actually learn the game and you get to that point of where you're like, yeah, this is getting kind of a little, you know, like a little boring, a little stale. Then you add that whole competitive aspect to it. You add a ranking system. You give that player something to work for. You get right, and then not only that, the gameplay cycle is going to be entirely different. It's going to be like a whole new game.
This is like AAA game type of stuff.
And the thing is too with that, people are also going to argue, well, Deadline itself has all these hit reg issues and these server stutters, right?
True.
Right. At least with competitive, you get rid of the server stutters, right? Because those server stutters are tied into players spawning in and joining the game.
Oh, is that so?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yep. That's been confirmed and identified. Remember when Rush? Did you play the game when Rush was the Rush game mode was a thing?
No.
So every time players would spawn in, because you'd have to wait like for these kind of like respawn like time waves or whatever. It was kind of like Battlefield. If you remember Rush, if you ever played any of the Battlefield franchises like Battlefield 3 back in the day.
No.
Yeah, it might be slightly a little bit before your time because I'm kind of old. But Battlefield, when did Battlefield 3 even come out? For time reference.
I never actually paid for games growing up, so that's just how that is. Yeah, that's just how that is.
Battlefield, that's not fucking Battlefield 3. That's Battlefield 3. Oh, I should probably put Battlefield 3 instead of just Battlefield. So that game came out in 2011. Oh my god. That makes me feel so old.
Shoot, I was in like second grade at that time.
Yeah, dude. So that was when I was like, what? I would have been Why is math so hard? I would have been like 14 years old. Yeah.
Damn.
So
Okay.
that so whenever kind of bring it back, whenever those spawn waves would happen, the server would just like die for like 10 seconds, or like, that's an exaggeration, it'd be a couple seconds, the game, and people would be like teleporting all over the map and shit.
Oh, so that's what the game mode was like. It was like everyone spawns in all at once. It's like that.
Yeah, so it was like kind of you had to move and push up to this objective, you had to hold the objective, and then once you held that objective, it would spawn you a new objective, and you had to push that one. There was an attacking team and a defending team, right? So it was kind of like, right, the defenders, if I remember correctly, I don't know if there were spawn ways. I can't remember if there were spawn ways for the defenders and set times where the defenders could actually spawn, or if it was just the attackers. But you get the point. There would be these spawn waves that would happen, right? And it would be either when players actually joined the lobby and like loaded in, or these spawn waves would happen and the server would just take a shit. So that's kind of where that came from.
When considering this, the competitive like type of play style that you're thinking of, are there other games in Roblox that have pulled this off?
I would say like the best one. No, not really.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think because
There's been
like what you're saying.
games that are kind of like set up for it. So if you really want to get into it, like when Counterblocks was a massive thing, they kind of pulled it off and pulled it off well with CBCL. Or pulled it off to the point of where it was playable. How do I know? I used to have a channel on it that had 60,000 subscribers, and that's the only game I played, and I wanted to kill myself by the end of it.
Is that why you deleted it or something?
Yeah, dude. The side note, that community was just ridiculously young, and I just could not handle. I don't want to say the stupidity, but just like this is gonna sound bad. The youngness, or the combination with the ignorance and just the.
Yeah, it's a tactical shooter. You know, you have to have tactics. When you're playing something like Valorant or CS:GO, you don't see kids playing that game. You know.
Dude, like creating content for it was awful, and that's when I was doing daily uploads. So I would get home from my work schedule at the time was like I'd go in at 5 a.m., get out at 1 p.m. I would record a video, edit, render it, and then I would live stream the rest of the night and have it upload to go public the next day in the morning. And I did that for like, I want to say 6 months straight.
That's a grind right there, man. I respect you for that. That's
dude,
crazy.
It was awful, and it burned me out. It burned me out. Would I do it again? Yeah, I would.
60,000 subs, bro.
If I had the time to do it. Oh, dude, I got like 40,000 subs within like 2 months.
Oh my god.
Because people were coming to the channel every single day because they knew there was going to be a new video every single day. It didn't matter. YouTube itself has an awful notification system for subscribers and stuff. I think it's fucking stupid. The fact that you're subscribed and that you actually need to hit another icon to get notifications of when people upload videos is just stupid.
Oh yeah.
And like, why are you subscribing to them in the first place? I don't know. It's fucking dumb.
There's no point.
Right. It's just the thought process and the design choices, in my opinion, just absolutely brain dead. But yeah, it completely negated that. And people would just come back to the channel every single day. And every single day I uploaded a video, I could figure out, okay, there's roughly 15,000 people coming to my channel every single day, because within 24 hours, all my videos have about 15K views. And if you really want to get, like, kind of side note, if you really want to get serious into YouTube, that is what you have to do. You need to
upload every day. Not
necessarily every day, but you need to have a set schedule and a consistency, and you also need to have, it's either the gameplay that sets you apart, it is your whole persona, your kind of your ambiance, your ambiance that sets you aside. Yeah, right. Your aura, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, personality. That's a really dumb way to say it. It's what sets you aside, right? So there's that.
What sets you aside? If you don't mind me asking.
Oh, I don't know, man. I would probably say gameplay, my knowledge of the game, my knowledge of like IRL stuff.
Wait,
Dude,
this
I
was in
can
the
hop.
Counterblocks days.
Oh, dude, yeah. Well, I was a man.
Oh,
I used
shoot.
to play a lot of CS:GO back in the day, and I was a decent CS player. But then you get into the
Mhm.
Roblox version of it, where people aren't
It's-
necessarily as skilled. And I was like,
it's
I
different.
I identified this. I would also do like on the live streams. I would do like game nights with the viewers and stuff like that.
Oh,
So it
sick.
was like kind of fun. And it got to the point of like we would all jump in like into a private server. I had
Private
people
server
that
games.
were I made everybody that was doing like actually participating in the game nights would change their Discord name to the same as their Roblox username, and I would sort them out in private voice channels in Discord, and we would actually play competitively against each other and play games.
Oh, that's.
And then
sick.
I would set a stream delay for about like 2 minutes so people couldn't obviously stream snipe. So
Did you do that for Deadline, or would you do that for Deadline?
I don't think I would do it again. It took so much work to set up.
Oh,
I would
man.
do it. I would do it if I had a lot more time on my hands. I totally
I
would.
see.
If I had a lot more time on my hands and I didn't have the responsibilities that I do now, oh, absolutely I would.
Life gets in the way, man.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah, you get older.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you gonna learn today, son. Back in my day. No, I'm
Already
just-
feeling it. Already feeling
back
it.
in my day. Yeah, no, I totally would do it. If I had the time, I would totally do it. If I had the time, dude, I'd be uploading 4 or 5 videos a week. If I could,
shoot.
and I want to.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to get into doing a lot more like IRL range content. That's a ton of fun.
Mhm.
I want to get into the firearms industry, reviewing product. I used to work in the firearms industry or the industry and training industry for
That's
about
sick.
6 years.
That's sick.
Oh yeah, dude, it was great. It was a ton of fun. Learned a lot. Got to experience a lot of things a lot of people don't have the ability to experience. Like it was very eye opening, a very cool experience, and I learned a lot from it. But I really want to get into stuff like that, and
You think
it
you're-
goes perfectly in with Deadline because like Deadline's a realistic game that's built off of IRL stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It works. So I'm gonna be doing that a lot more, hopefully, and I honestly find personally lately gaming isn't really at the forefront obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggle to make the gaming content that I want to make to the quality that I want to make it at.
What do you mean?
Oh dude, I'd be busting out cinematics, really professionally voiceovering stuff and like doing stuff to a lot more of a capacity,
Right,
or a
yep.
more professional capacity versus than just like getting out like builds,
Yeah.
viewer kits stuff. Like the videos that I want to do would take me 3 or 4 days to do of work versus just, hey, record for a couple hours, edit for a couple
Right.
hours and upload, right? That's always
Yeah.
going to be a challenge for me because I'm like, oh, I can do this and I totally have the capability to do it, but I don't have the fucking time. I just don't, unless I want to come out with a video
Yeah.
every 2 months, which
Right.
so there's always been that challenge. And I really think with where this game is at, if the game takes off at all, which it will, when it gets more streamlined,
Absolutely.
if the devs take it in the right direction,
Right.
which I think they are, I don't see how this game will not how it won't be sitting. I think this game can chill at 10K players a day, right?
It can. It can.
I think it can.
It is so different from like any other Roblox game. that
Oh,
has, like,
dude,
gun
absolutely,
physics.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
It's up there.
Yeah, dude, that was a tangent and a half. Holy,
Yeah.
getting after it. So we're at about an hour and a half. We still probably have enough for another episode if you want to call it today.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm
Yeah.
down. Yep.
All right. Well, we'll get out of here, boys. If you made it this far, I appreciate you watching. I will be pinning Mark's channel in the description, as well as pinned comment. Please go check him out. Give him a like, give him a subscribe, take a peek at his content, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.
Peace.